To our channel. Today we are going to start the short-term regulation of blood pressure. So mainly the short-term regulation of blood pressure is done by our neurological system. Mainly the neurons are involved in it. Mainly autonomic nervous system, that is our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system are involved in this. So for example, if we see if the blood pressure rises, then there are blood pressure sensors which are present. Mainly their volume sensors which are present on the venous side, V for V, volume sensors on venous side. That is, if the volume increases, then it gives message, or when the volume decreases also it gives message on the venous side. And also pressure sensors which are present on a arterial side. So these all sensors are reaching the brain finally, and they give the message. So from that we get the output and they regulate. So let us see how this process goes. So in carotid sinus, mainly uh, you know this is our heart, and here aorta arises, and here internal carotid artery, external. So in the side of internal carotid artery, here we have this swelling. This is the carotid sinus. So carotid sinus, there are nerve endings which are mainly baroreceptors, and they are attached to ninth nerve, cranial nerve, that is glossopharyngeal nerve, also called as carotid nerve, and this is attached to the medulla, especially to the tractus solitarius nucleus in the medulla. So from this baroreceptors, the glossopharyngeal nerve go there. So for example, this is a carotid sinus. So from here, for example, here we have our medulla. So now this glossopharyngeal nerve goes there. So baroreceptors from aorta through vagus cranial nerve reach the medulla. So 9-10 nerves are called as buffer nerves because they are helpful in buffering the blood pressure whenever they increase or decrease. So even from aorta, now from aorta one more nerve, that is vagus nerve, also goes to the medulla. So now if the blood pressure increases, the aorta and carotid sinus get stretched, because when the blood pressure is high, the walls get stretched. Because of this stretched nature, aortic and carotid sinus get stretched with the high pressure, then their nerve endings are also stretched. So they have the sodium channels and they are open. So the sodium influx takes place and the cell depolarization continue by repolarization, that is nothing but the action potentials are formed in that nerve endings, and this takes the cell from the resting membrane potential to threshold and produce depolarization. More action potentials are produced, so they recognize that there is high blood pressure and get recognized in the medullary nucleus, that is tractus solitarius. So by this 9th and 10th now, that is glossopharyngeal and vagus, give message to tractus solitarius that uh, wake up, already the blood pressure is high in blood. So now what it does, let us say, produce a cardiac output, or coordinate the response, produce the output and coordinate the response by decreasing the heart rate, in turn decreasing the cardiac output and decreasing the systolic blood pressure, later finally decreasing the mean arterial pressure. So this is how, whenever the blood pressure is increased, it gives a message by means of this carotid sinus aortic wall stretching. The nerve endings receive the sodium, they undergo action potential and finally give the message to our medulla, especially in our tractus solitarius. This in turn gives the output result of decrease in blood pressure. So the nucleus of tractus solitarius is also having beside cardiac inhibitory center, and this information from tractus solitarius to the heart is given by the right vagus to the SA node and left vagus to the AV node. So actually, as we said, now the impulse has reached the tractus solitarius. So this tractus solitarius, in turn, inside of tractus solitarius we have cardiac inhibitory center. So this activates the cardiac inhibitory center, and this cardiac inhibitory centers give the information mm, like back, it gives the information or output back by means of right vagus nerve to the SA node, because vagus is having inhibitory function. So right vagus nerve to the SA node, it inhibits the SA node, and left vagus also inhibits the AV node. So the action potentials are decreased in SA and AV node, so that the heart rate is decreased, in turn cardiac output is decreased. So this leads to decrease in blood pressure. So it releases acetylcholine and attached to the muscarine receptors, which are stimulating the G inhibitory proteins. And finally the SA node is inhibited, and it also inhibits the cardioaccelerated nucleus, and it gives output by the descending fibers passing to the spinal cord, and from there post ganglionic fibers end as sympathetic fibers ganglion. So now acetylcholine is mainly released to inhibit the receptors, especially muscarinic receptors, muscarinic receptors are stimulated by acetylcholine to inhibit the heart rate, means to decrease the heart rate. So mainly because of this G inhibitory proteins. GS means G stimulatory, G inhibitory. We have two types of G protein coupled receptors. So here we have G inhibitory, means they are inhibiting the SA node. So finally this is done by inhibiting the cardio accelerator center. In the name itself you can understand it is accelerating. Now already the blood pressure is high. Now we need to decrease the blood pressure, means we need to inhibit this acceleratory center, so that the output is coming from the ganglionic fibers and the sympathetic nervous system is inhibited now. So always remember, whenever our blood pressure is very high in our body, our parasympathetic system is mostly activated and the sympathetic system is inhibited, because inhibition of sympathetic system leads to decrease of cardiac output, and activation of parasympathetic nervous system inhibits it, so that cardiac output decreases whenever the blood pressure is high. But reverse, let us think of reverse, like whenever the blood pressure is very much high in your body, so when blood pressure is high, now we need to decrease the blood pressure by means of mainly activating parasympathetic. But whereas when blood pressure is low outside, means in your body, then we need to increase the blood pressure, then we need to activate the sympathetic. So here we are talking about to inhibit the cardio accelerate, means you can understand here the blood pressure is already high outside, so now we are in a process to decrease the blood pressure by means of the inhibiting the sympathetic ganglions, so reaching the SA node. So this response, it is inhibitory pathway. So the norepinephrine is also decreased, further decrease heart rate, cardiac output and blood pressure. So vasomotor center is also inhibited and has descending fibers passing to spinal cord, and sympathetic outflow is inhibited. So the neurons reaching the venous side, arteries, adrenal, medulla are all inhibited. So norepinephrine release is reduced and produce the venodilation. So always remember, whenever we want to inhibit the blood flow, whenever we want to decrease the blood flow, always the vessels undergo dilation, because dilation means blood vessel lumen has become widened, so there is increased blood flow, but the pressure, total peripheral resistance is decreased, so even the blood pressure gets decreased. So this lead to reduce the venous return, reduce the contractility, or finally reduce the blood pressure. So now arterioles dilate, reduce release of epinephrine, venoconstriction is decreased, blood pressure is decreased, and sympathetic stimulation of JGA, that is juxtaglomerular apparatus is reduced, and renin production is also decreased. Actually this renin and kidney is related mainly for long term regulation. Now we are talking about short term regulation. So mainly neuronal autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic play a major role in autonomic, that is neuronal regulation. So if the blood pressure is very low, for example, so before we have seen what happens if blood pressure is high. Now let us see the case when the blood pressure is very low, especially in hemorrhage. Hemorrhage, lot of blood is lost, so blood volume is decreased. So now let us see what happens here. So less action potential is reaching the tractus solitarius by efferents, and inhibitory activities decrease now, vagal activities also decrease now. So in turn saying that parasympathetic activities decrease and sympathetic activities increase now, because we need to increase the blood pressure. So heart rate is increased, cardiac output is increased, and further increase in blood pressure. So these are all interrelated. So always remember, just the simple ways, always remember the vagus parasympathetic always inhibits the heart rate or decreases the blood pressure, but the sympathetic, which is always increasing the blood pressure. So it stimulates the cardio accelerator nucleus. Now it need to stimulate the accelerating nucleus, because now it want to accelerate, now it want to activate the sympathetic system. So more sympathetic outflow resulting increase in blood pressure. So stimulation of vasomotor and undergoes the vasoconstriction. So always remember, whenever we want to increase the blood pressure, we need to do vasoconstriction, because total peripheral resistance increases and blood pressure increases. But whenever we want to decrease the blood pressure, we need to always do venodilation or vasodilation. So whenever we do dilation, it leads to decrease in total peripheral resistance and in turn decrease of blood pressure. So you can more venous, because of the venoconstriction, there is more venous return to the heart. So more contraction takes place according to Frank Starling law. More venous return, more preload, more contraction, and more cardiac output or stroke volume, and leading to increase in blood pressure. So the arterial pressure increases, peripheral resistance increases, all vessels get constricted, cardiac output increases, in turn BP also increases. So stimulation of adrenaline and venoconstriction. So here the stimulation takes place. Now blood pressure increases, epinephrine now gets activated because it's sympathetic stimulation. It activates on AV node and SA node, in turn increase the heart rate, blood pressure increases, arterial constriction. So stimulation of JGA cells, more renin is produced, more cardiac output is produced, BP also is increased now. So here is the situation of parasympathetic activities decrease and sympathetic activities increase. Yeah, this situation is sympathetic activities increase but parasympathetic is decrease. But whenever the BP is increasing, the parasympathetic activity is increasing because now we need to decrease the BP, and sympathetic activity is decreasing and efferents are increasing because it need to give more message now to reduce the BP. So carotid occlusion, what happens in carotid occlusion? Carotid occlusion means carotid arteries, like those are occluded, they are break off. Means if the efferents they don't give the message to the heart, then what to the brain, then what brain thinks is the blood pressure is very low, so now it tries to increase the blood pressure. So to increase the blood pressure, sympathetic activity should increase and the parasympathetic should decrease, and the efferents of course are decreased because they are cut off, and the heart rate is now increased and blood pressure is increased. So it is like carotid occlusion is nothing but like decrease in BP, because whenever the blood pressure is decreased, we try to increase it. So carotid sinus massage. Massage is nothing but like increase in blood pressure because you're doing the massage. So it's like increasing the blood pressure. So whenever the blood pressure is increased, now we need to decrease the blood pressure. So to decrease the blood pressure, mainly we need to inhibit the sympathetic system, that is decrease sympathetic, increase parasympathetic, and efferents are increased because blood pressure is increased. And now the heart rate is decreased and blood pressure is decreased. So if efferents are cut down, CNS can't receive info, so therefore decrease in blood pressure. So the system tries to increase the blood pressure by mainly decreasing the efferents. Yeah, no, not decreasing efferents. Yeah, here efferents are cut down, so efferent is decreased. Parasympathetic is decreased, but sympathetic is increased because now we need to increase the blood pressure. Of course, heart rate increases. So this is all about short-term regulation. Next, you can see we'll discuss the long-term regulation. So this is about short-term regulation. Let us also add some few points from the textbook diagrams, all those things. So we are back to our textbook. You can see here first we have some glossary terms. Brain bridge reflex means increase in heart rate following stretch of atrial wall, because of sympathetic activity mediated by vagus nerve. Uh, Means increase in heart rate because of stretch of atrial wall. And Cushing CNS ischemic response means intense sympathetic stimulation and increase in arterial blood pressure following cerebral ischemia. Cerebral ischemia means whenever the blood supply to the brain is decreased, then it gives a response by means of sympathetic stimulation and increase in the blood pressure. So vasovagal syncope means vagally mediated bradycardia resulting in fall in blood pressure and fainting. This is mainly seen in emotional patients. If someone is emotionally disturbed, then their all blood vessels get dilated, so this leads to decrease in blood pressure, and finally it leads to bradycardia, decrease in heart rate. So this is leading to again fainting because blood pressure is decreased, all the vessels are dilated. So now let us see the diagrams. So here you can see this is the vasoconstriction side, this is a vasodilator, this is a cardio inhibitor, this is a vasomotor center which is present in our brain, and these are the blood vessels. This is the vagus, this is the heart, sympathetic chain, sympathetic stimulus coming to the heart and also to the blood vessels and controlling it. So here you can see the arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins. Remember that except capillaries, all these arteries, arterioles, venules, all are having the sympathetic regulation, but capillaries don't have it. That is the important point to remember. The vessels except the capillaries are innervated, and remember that the vasoconstriction effect by sympathetic system is powerful mainly in kidneys, intestines, spleen, skin, but less potent in skeletal muscle and brain. So this is the exact diagram where you can see the vasomotor center. It is located uh, in the reticular substance mesencephalon. In the reticular substance you can see the pons temporal, and how this motor response is coming here. Vasomotor center, vasomotor center, medulla, vasodilators, vasoconstrictors, or you can see they are present bilateral. So you can see here vasoconstrictors are located bilaterally in the anterior lateral portions. They excite the preganglionic vasoconstrictors, neurons, and sympathetic nervous system. So vasodilators are also located bilaterally in anterior lateral portion. This inhibit the vasoconstriction. And sensory area, it's a nucleus rectus solitarius. It is present posterior lateral portion of medulla. So these are the positions you can remember where they are present. So next, let us try to understand this graph where minutes, that is time, is in x-axis, and on y-axis you have the arterial pressure. You can see with the time what actually this is an experiment on an animal. First we give the total spinal anesthesia. Because of anesthesia, you can see that sympathetic activity is dropped down, so the blood pressure is also dropped down. But because of injecting the norepinephrine, norepinephrine goes and acts upon our SA node by releasing acetylcholine muscarinic receptors. It increases alpha receptors. It increases mainly the stimulation of sympathetic nervous system. So you can see if there is no sympathetic stimulation, the arterial blood pressure drop down. But by injecting norepinephrine, suddenly you can see the rise in the spike of blood pressure. So this is how we can say the sympathetic always constrict the vessel and increase the blood pressure. So here you can see the baroreceptor system for controlling the arterial pressure. These are the glossopharyngeal nerve, herring nerve. So herring nerve is the one which carries this information towards our heart. So here you can see the arterial blood pressure on x-axis, number of impulses from carotid sinus nerves per second is on y-axis. As the arterial pressure is increasing, you can see the number of impulses from carotid sinus per second are also increasing. Delta L by P is equal to maximum. So you can see the working of baroreflex stimulus. Components of the increased arterial blood pressure: receptor, baroreceptor, carotid sinus, aortic arch. So efferent nerve, herring nerve is ninth nerve from carotid sinus. There is depressor nerve, that is our 10th cranial nerve, vagus nerve from the arch of aorta. So integrating center is nucleus rectus solitarium, vasomotor center. Efferent, that is which is coming out, is a vagus increase activity, sympathetic decrease activity. Effector organs are heart, blood vessels. Physiological effect: decrease heart rate, decrease cardiac contractility, vasodilation, resulting in decreasing cardiac output, decrease in resistance. So you can see here vagus increase the activities because vasodilation, because blood flow increase. It's like related to blood flow. Sympathetic decrease activity because of sympathetic vasoconstriction, so blood flow decreases. So in zoom you can see here, this is a glossopharyngeal nerve, this is the external carotid artery, this is the internal carotid artery, this is the herring nerve. So by means this glossopharyngeal nerve, by means of herring nerve, you can see it is also connecting to the chemoreceptors, carotid body, carotid sinus. So always remember, from the carotid sinus, these are the mechanoreceptors, these are nothing but our baroreceptors. But we are also having some other receptors called as chemoreceptors, means they are mainly sensitive to change in oxygen and carbon dioxide. These are in carotid body. So always remember that chemoreceptors are present in carotid body, but in sinus there are baroreceptors. So this is a common carotid artery. So just they have zoomed this diagram to show the herring nerve clearly. Now let us see this diagram, the maintenance of blood pressure in postural change lying to standing. So actually what happens when a person is lying down and if he suddenly wake up, you can understand the blood pressure decreases because all the blood is pulling down to towards lower part of the body. So the venous return is decreased, internal cardiac output is decreased. So when a person is sleeping and suddenly waking up, you can understand some of the fainting may take place, especially when the blood volume is very low. So you can see here 0.6 to 12 seconds vagal withdrawal, heart rate increases, cardiac output increases. This is compensatory mechanism now to increase the heart rate, because when he suddenly wakes up, uh, the pressure sensors, a carotid sinus get activated and does this. So sympathetic activity is mainly increased, heart rate is increased, inotropic contraction is increased, and blood vessels, what happens, venous return increases. So sodium water retention takes place from the kidney, and after 1 minute hormonal release like vasopressin takes place. Vasopressin is like antidiuretic. Antidiuretic means it tries to stop the urine to go. It means antidiuresis means it doesn't allow diuresis. So the water retention takes place so that blood volume can be maintained. Kidneys get activated, renin get activated, angiotensin activated, aldosterone activated. So in turn water and sodium get retention. So finally increase the blood pressure. So whenever a person wakes up suddenly, the compensatory mechanism will be like this. And here you can see the denervated baroreceptors. So when the baroreceptors are present, you can see the normal graphs, but when baroreceptors are denervated, so this is a experiment which is actually done in dogs. So when it is denervated, you can see the graph is like distorted, and the same graph. You can see on x-axis we have mean arterial pressure, on y-axis we have the percentage of occurrence. So the denervated one is disordered, but normal one is nerve, means nerves are connected to it. So parasympathetic autonomic nervous system, sympathetic are activated here, so they maintain the blood flow normally. Actually, we also have another reflexes like arterial and pulmonary artery reflexes to regulate the arterial blood pressure. So whenever there is this arterial and pulmonary, they have stretch receptors when there is low pressure receptors, and they bring the changes according to the blood volume. So detect the simultaneous increase in pressure in the low pressure areas of circulation caused by increase in volume. So the total reflex system is more potent for control of arterial. So actually this alone is not so potent. Along with all our nervous system, it is potent. So normally heart rate increases to 75% whenever the sympathetic stimulation takes place. So this not only takes place because of stretch of sinus node, only 15% of the heart rate increases. Means by our neuronal mechanism, that is because of sympathetic mechanism, only 15% increases, but the remaining 40 to 60% mainly increases because of the nervous reflex called brain bridge reflex. So normally heart rate increases 75%, but because of this neuronal regulation, short term regulation, only 15% increases. But where that remaining 40-60% increases, it mainly increases because of brain bridge reflex. This brain bridge reflex transmit because by means of efferent signals and vagus nerve to the medulla and also sympathetic. So the efferent signals are transmitted back by vagus and sympathetic, and in turn increase the heart rate. The same type of reaction, the same type of process going on, but because both are working together, it leads to increase in 75% of heart rate. Alone our neuronal autonomic nervous system can't do this, because autonomic nervous system alone only leads to increase of heart rate only 15%, but the remaining is done by mainly importantly brain bridge reflex. And CNS ischemic response we already discussed. Whenever the blood flow decrease to the cerebral cortex or brain, then it tries to do the compensatory mechanism and finally increase the blood pressure, mainly because it is like an emergency pressure contribution rapidly to prevent the further decrease in arterial pressure. So this is also called as last ditch stand pressure control mechanism, because it's only done in emergency situation whenever the blood flow is rapidly decreased to our central nervous system. It also uses to activate the cardiac acceleratory center, and it uses neuronal mechanism and also the kidney mechanism, that is to prevent diuresis. So all this same mechanism goes on here to protect the blood flow, means to increase the blood pressure again to normal, so that the ischemia can be reduced in the central nervous system. So next let us see Cushing's reaction to increase pressure around brain. Here what happens is the cerebrospinal fluid pressure increases more than the arterial blood pressure. So because of this, what happens, they takes a compression takes place of whole brain compresses. You can see the whole brain may compress. So to this response, the CNS ischemic response causes arterial pressure to rise higher than the cerebral fluid. So when the then the CFS, that is cerebral fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, then the CSF, if the arterial pressure increases, again it becomes normal, the blood flow becomes normal again. So this is called as Cushing reaction. So this Cushing reaction is nothing but it is trying to increase the blood pressure greater than the cerebrospinal fluid. So by this you can see the brain from loss of nutrition if cerebral high enough to compress the cerebral arteries. So now you can see increased cardiac output and arterial pressure because of skeletal muscle contraction during exercise. So actually what happens during exercise, the blood vessels near to it get compressed. So because of that compression, it leads to increase in venous return to the heart. So this in turn, venous return increases means cardiac output increases, preload increases. So this is like again Frank Starling mechanism, we know that. So this finally leads to increase in cardiac output. Let us see the respiratory waves in arterial pressure. So actually how respiratory waves are formed. So for each cycle of respiration, arterial pressure rises and falls like 4 to 6 millimeters of mercury. So it's like a wave like pattern causing the respiratory waves in arterial pressure. So these waves mainly result from like breathing signals, respiratory center of medulla spillover. In respiratory center is also present in medulla, and also our the blood regulatory centers are also present in medulla. So because of this, sometimes it may also undergo the spillover process and go to the vasomotor center with each respiratory cycle. So during inspiration, actually what happens, the thoracic cavity is more negative, so blood vessels in the chest expand and the blood returning to heart is also decreasing. So because of the cardiac output and of course arterial pressure also decreases, and can excite the vascular and arterial stress receptors. When thoracic vessels pressure changes are going in thoracic vessel, they can excite the vascular and arterial stress receptors. So because of this also it may increase in arterial pressure during early part of expiration. So remember that during inspiration blood pressure decreases, but during expiration blood pressure increases, especially in the starting of expiration. So decrease in pressure during the remaining of respiratory cycle. So always remember, in every cycle of respiration the arterial pressure decreases, but only during the beginning of expiration the blood pressure increases. So this is very important point to correlate our arterial blood pressure with respiratory cycles. So and during deep respiration also blood pressure can rise and fall as much as like 20 millimeters of mercury with each respiratory cycle. So next here we can see the arterial pressure vasomotor waves, oscillation of pressure reflex control systems. So we can see that large waves are also noted as great times rise and fall slowly than respiratory waves. The duration of each cycle varies from 26 seconds in anesthetized. This is done in dog experiments, so anesthetized dog, 7 to 10 seconds in unanesthetized human. So the waves are called vasomotor waves or Mayer waves. This is important. These waves are called Mayer waves. Such records are demonstrated showing the cyclic rise and fall in arterial pressure during respiration. So the vasomotor waves is reflex oscillation of one or more nervous pressure control systems. You can see here A is a vasomotor waves caused by oscillation of CNS ischemic response. So in ischemic response, how the waves are, you can see in between 160 to 200 the pressure is, and the vasomotor waves caused by baroreceptor reflex oscillation. So this is, by this we can end our short-term regulation of arterial blood pressure.